Hello, and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
We are two artists reaching into the pile of, what would
A bunch
you say?
of separate media, I would say. Anything that moves you. That could be comics, that could be movies, TV shows, video games, anything we think might be worth taking with you.
Yep, and what that means is we're talking about John Wick 4 today. Now, when we're on the Warp Shelf podcast, we try to find out, is something worth having, owning? That's what he means by taking with you. Is it worth having on your digital library? Is it worth Blu-ray?
It's literal and metaphorical, because sometimes, especially today, you might not have access to physical media or have that option for a certain project, but is it worth rewatching? Is it worth sticking up here?
Yeah, is it worth maybe going to the theaters again if you can? You know, like it's like that's exactly it. But we're talking about a movie that I already own all three of the movies before that, and I never thought I would do that. Deshaun was the one who pushed me to watch the first John Wick. I remember he was like, I know you don't like Keanu, but you got to watch John Wick, and I was like. You know, like
Keanu ever do to you?
Well, Constantine, but but that's not. It's not. He's not bad in that. It's just. It's just not what. Whatever.
That's a solid flick, but it's not the Hellblazer adaptation that I want.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I feel like such a comic nerd when I say shit like that, where I'm like, oh yes, the well-loved Constantine adaptation. Oh, it's not like the comic book, so I didn't like it, and everyone else is like, what the hell?
People get on me even more so for that than like with Teen Titans. You're just like, yeah, it's a solid animated series, but it's not my George Perez Teen Titans. Sorry.
But a lot of people grow up on Teen Titans, so it's like exactly. It's their Teen Titans, you know. So you really can't fault them for that. But it's like, yeah, Keanu. I've watched a lot of Keanu movies, and there's very few that I was like, wow. It's like most of the time I'm like, you know, like it's like sometimes it feels like overacting or underacting, and it's like it's one of those things that I was never a big fan until Deshaun made me watch John Wick, and I was like, holy shit. And I think that day we watched 2 and 3 like all in a
3 hadn't come out yet.
3 hadn't come out yet, but we watched 1 and 2.
1 and 2 back to back, yeah.
And this morning I rewatched John Wick just to remember what the start of this series is. And it's funny because it's like all the things that like I'm kind of like about Keanu, he uses to his strengths here in John Wick, and really like sells you. Like, of course, I've loved Keanu Reeves in a lot of comedic roles that he pops up in and stuff like that, but like I'm not the biggest fan, but this turned me into a huge fan.
It needs the right like lens. It needs the right like outlet for him to perform to his best, and a character like John Wick specifically is like tailor crafted for his like, disposition and his acting style, so it works. Although,
it really
as far
does.
as like deep details about how we felt about the original 3 movies, we did a whole episode on it.
Yes, we did do a whole episode on it.
In summation, for me, it'd be like very well crafted movies, super fun. 2 is my favorite, probably still.
Really? Like, I mean, I love 2, but I want to talk about that today because, like, I think that this, and guys, you can't talk about an action movie without talking about set pieces. So know that this is
plus we're also a couple weeks late anyway. Like, people are talking about Guardians Volume 3 right now, and nobody's talking about John Wick Chapter 4 at the moment.
Yeah, which is sad because people should be, because they should still be talking about it.
So
but
we're kind of past the.
So guys, spoiler
like,
zone, but to be fair, there's really no, to people being like, oh, maybe I can't listen to the rest of this podcast. There's no twist. There's no twist that will be ruined here, except for the very end, and we'll save that till the end of the podcast. So, like, you guys we won't talk about the end until there, but we're going to talk about the whole fucking movie. So, if you want kind of spoiler-free, don't worry, but, like, know that there's nothing that, like, you're going to be like, what the fuck? They ruined the movie, you know? Like, that's definitely not going to happen because it's a visual feast for the goddamn eyes. You need to see this bitch to believe it. I know that sounds crazy, but like I literally mean that. John Wick 4 is a literal feast for the eyes, and it just doesn't let up for its 3-hour fucking runtime, almost 3-hour runtime. And I don't know, Deshaun. I think this is one of the greatest action movies ever put to goddamn film, and I ain't fucking afraid to say it. I love action movies. We've talked about action movies constantly on this podcast, and we've talked about what it means to be a modern action movie and take it to the next step, so that way it beats all the other movies that year, and beats all the action movies before that. John Wick does it. And does it again, and does it again. Like he did it in the first movie. John Wick comes in and you're like, wow, an action classic. John Wick 2, you're like, holy fucking shit, they amped it. How'd they do that? 3, you're like, they got it. They can't. How? And then 4 comes in and goes, Keanu's old as shit. We don't give a fuck. Like we don't care.
Constantly just putting himself through the fucking ringer for our entertainment.
Holy shit. You can see it's him on so much of the stunts that it's insane. Of course you can tell when it's like, you're like, wow, they dropped him from fucking, and you're like bringing a professional to drop him from up
when you
up
get
high.
Those long, like one shot choreographed fights, and he walks with like a slight, like, oh god, my hammies. You can tell that's less acting and more Keanu Reeves, just like, oh, I'm not as young as I used to be.
I agree. I think that kind of shows here, and I think that's kind of like the theme of this, is that this is kind of like, it's not the final John Wick. I don't think it is, but it is supposed to be a closing chapter. It's supposed to be it's supposed to be a Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and you're like, yeah, sure, you got 6 more. I fucking know it. But we already know there's at least a prequel, sequel thing going on, side story called Ballerina. So I feel like that's important to bring up early, because a lot of people will be like, oh yes, this is Lance Reddick's last movie, you have to go see it. And reality of it is Ballerina has been pushed back so much. Lance Reddick already shot all of his scenes for Ballerina with Ana de Armas, and so that's really his last. Armas, I love her. I'm sorry I mispronounced it. Really, this is one of my favorite actresses. Absolutely, it almost made me get Apple TV this past week with the Ghosted movie. I was like, I don't want Apple TV, but damn, does Ghosted look good?
Do it just to watch it, and then Ted Lasso, since the 3rd season's out, and then just cancel the subscription, Frank. That's it. It's that simple.
It's that simple. Just
there's
a month.
Stuff that I'm like, I want to watch. Like, there's a documentary on like Stars or something. I'm like, yeah, trial, watch it, bye.
He's a mastermind. He's a mastermind with a trial game. He's got emails on emails.
In case you're a new listener for the show, Frank and pronouncing names never the best.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I try my best, but it's like a little bit dyslexic. I think that movie's gonna, of course, slap. Like you're telling me that you're gonna give me a John Wick, but with Ana de Armas, so you're like, all right, cool. I'm fine with that.
We've already established like this straight up lore and the way the world works.
Yeah.
In John Wick, which is where the ideas that drew me to the first one partially. He's like, oh, this is cool, but I also kind of love this like almost comic booky universe that they're building up here. I had said in our review for the first 3 that it kind of reminded me of stuff like 100 Bullets.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, it feels like Brian Azzarello's got his like hands in it, where it's just this like ever-evolving universe that just keeps seeming to get bigger. And I feel like they did a great job even here, being like, you thought he did it last time. He absolutely did not, Like, you're like, he hasn't even gotten to the table. And even in this one, you're like, he still hasn't even gotten to the table yet. And you're like, how far? How many movies do we have to do to get to the table? How deep does it go? How many more actor cameos can we do? Because if you remember, like, that's the real formula of John Wick, is being like, hey, you got Keanu Reeves for an action movie that he does all his own stunts, but the real cherry on top, other than the world building, is the absolute banger cameos that are thrown into so many action scenes. I think I totally forgot about William Dafoe being the first big cameo in John Wick. You're just like, you're like, oh, okay. And this one, I feel like John Wick 4 does such a great job because it's just like, yo, you thought we ran out of steam? Here's Donnie Yen. You know,
like, Donnie Yen and Hiroyuki Sanada, who was supposed to be in the third one. He was supposed to play like the arch rival character from that film, like the guy with the sushi and stuff like that. He was like the assassin. That was supposed to be Sanada's character, but he was doing
Mortal Kombat.
Said no to do Endgame.
Specifically. Oh, okay.
Because he had that brief bit in Endgame, just do like a cameo for that and just scheduling stuff. But I guess they were just like, yeah, but we're gonna get you for the next one.
We're gonna get you for the next one, which I think that's the best idea. You know, I feel like if you want to amp up a series, you throw those two at it. You know, you're just like, okay. And Donnie Yen doesn't fucking let up in this movie. I have to look up on IMDb. When the hell was this guy born? Oh my god, he's older than my dad. He's that's literally it. I sat here being like, I kept being like, Keanu Reeves, how old are you? Oh, same year as my dad. You know, oh, Donnie Yen, older. You know, these guys are old and still delivering the best fucking action you could go to sit your ass in a seat in theaters to see. You know, or buy it on digital, whatever, or buy it on Blu-ray. You know, it's incredible because it's one of those things that he's already a legend. You know, he's already got it's kind of like Jackie Chan being thrown into a movie sometimes. You're just you already got the bank. You already got the cred. You already got the lore, and you're just going deeper.
I guess he had fun playing Chirrut in Rogue One because he was just like, I just want to play a badass blind guy again.
and I mean, somehow tops that Rogue One blind guy fight scenes. You're just like, holy shit. I think that this is, and of course, I think the real click of this movie, the real I think that's what makes this my favorite of these that is Bill Skarsgård as the main villain. I think that is the chef's kiss, the extra spice, the emerald bam of the fucking movie is that you already have a John Wick movie, which is thrilling. Absolutely nonstop. You know, you already established John Wick's sad, so all you have to do is show a couple scenes of him being sad, emotionally connected. You know, you don't have to do too much for 4 movies in. You don't have to show another dog. You just have to show him watching another video of his wife and him being like, I'm gonna fuck those guys up. He's just like, yeah, I gotta remember. I gotta go fuck those guys up. And that's all you have to do, and then for 3 hours, just deliver it. And yeah. I think that Bill Skarsgård is that nice, perfect little something on top. First off, he would have been a great Bond villain. I think that's it.
Absolutely. I was thinking about that too.
I was watching this being like, oh my god, he's just playing a Bond villain here, and I'm totally for it. You know, and I think he was great, but I think that also the extra try spice of this movie, of course, was Shamir Anderson being in this movie as the tracker. Just kind of another assassin who's another player in the game, and that kept the tensions high. But also with such a different style than the prim and proper the suit with the Kevlar sewn into it. It's this dude's just walking around in cargo pants and a backpack. Right.
It's kind of amazing.
And oh my goodness, and it's just one of those things that I think that the cast is what makes the John Wick movies, and I feel like this cast is another step up. You know, you already have Lawrence Fishburne, you already had Clancy Brown in the last one, or is he new?
He was not. He was new to this one.
That's what I thought.
Because in the third one we had the Adjudicator.
Yeah, and but then you have Ian McShane coming back, and you know, this is Lance Reddick's death in this universe, which is kind of a nice send off that it was already built in. You know, he already filmed his scene. You know, like it's got you know like
it did make it sadder though.
Yeah, it really did. I was like, damn, homies. Like I was already feeling it from all the Destiny footage of everyone kind of showing love in Destiny. I thought that was really respectful. You know, like for a voice actor who did so much of the story of Destiny. You know, like you're kind of like, it's great that they're showing respect.
Yeah,
you know, like
I forget what the developer's name is, but the guys who developed the Horizon games were also showing off their tribute to him because he plays like one of the major antagonists in those games.
Right.
And they use like his likeness and everything for the motion captures. You're like, oh man.
Yeah, it's sad, but it almost is like he gets to. I mean, it's like I know I'm quoting like Babylon, but like it's like he gets to live forever, you know, like is that like Destiny's gonna like use what he's did, but people can go back and like play with Lance Reddick forever, you know, like that game's endlessly long now until it's cost way too much fucking money.
There's no such thing as forever with a game like that. That's primarily an online experience.
Yeah, fair enough. In a world where they were like, we're shutting down the Diablo 2 servers and now you have to play Diablo 2, you're like, nothing is sacred. you're like, oh, they will ruin it all. Okay, sounds good. I did have to laugh about the Clancy Brown thing though, because of course I love Clancy Brown. It's like a badass, just like sprinkle in this. You know, if this was like an awesome burrito, all these guys are just like that extra. Here's guac, here's the salsa.
I get the same feeling like when I see Ron Perlman and anything.
Yes,
you're just like,
exactly.
Yeah, that's my character. That's like my character actor spice. You know what I mean?
And Clancy Brown, but I was at the end though. They were doing that big dramatic scene, and all I could hear was Mr. Krabs, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, step back, grab ye guns." Like 20 paces, like I was just like, I know he's trying not to sound like Mr. Krabs, but all I hear is like, me money, like I just, that is all I hear. And I'm like, I know you do so much other work. I know you do so much other, there's like so much anime that I love him in,
I don't have that problem because I associate him first in my mind with Lex Luthor than I do then Mr. Krabs.
There you go. I mean,
but it also helps that I'm like going through the DCAU again with a buddy, so it's like Lex is also fresh in my mind right now.
Of course he's I think the best Lex Luthor. I know that's a hard take, but like
even if you want to split them, like we don't have much options for.
You don't got many good options.
Fuck that one up. Just like, why is the best version of live action Lex on Smallville still? Why is it still Michael Rosenbaum on Smallville?
Oh, you don't like who's the original in the Superman movies?
Gene Hackman, I do
Gene
like,
Hackman,
but I feel like we haven't gotten over that, and we're still trying to emulate that even now. Just like, and you're like, Lex. I want a threatening Lex. Please, James Gunn.
Please, James Gunn, help me, James Gunn. You're my only hope. But I want to kind of go through this movie kind of like set piece by set piece because like I think that's as much as the cast is fantastic, the soundtrack absolutely great, but it's really the set pieces that send this over the fucking wall the whole time. It is just incredible. Even just starting out with the weird like it's a Bond movie type of feel now where they just run through the desert on camels and then shoot a man in the desert.
Literally the cold, like super Bond style, like actual cold opening.
I was like, wow.
Right, cool.
I was like, all right. Okay. All right. And that's what I think that's kind of it is that
especially since given that like up until now, the status quo was to pick up right where we left off at the end of the last one. Like we get to the end, like Big Boss Man is dead, and I have a new dog. Where do we start with chapter 2? I'm back home with my new dog, and then Santino shows up. And 2, you're excommunicado, and everyone's going to come after you now. Where do we start with chapter 3? Literally as he was running away from the park where we left off last time. This time, it helps that like, oh, John kind of got fucked up at the end of the third one, so
Yep.
he needed to recuperate, but now
he's laying low.
back,
He's
baby.
he's in the
Yeah.
caves, and the king and Martin Lawrence coming in with that king monologue. Well, he's at the start of the beginning was such like a fucking. First off, Martin Lawrence should introduce more wrestlers. Lawrence Fishburne. Sorry, Lawrence Fishburne. Sorry, wow. Lawrence Fishburne should introduce more wrestlers because that's exactly what that was. Was he was like the king, baby? Like I was like, hell yeah! They're like hyping up John Wick before he even gets
I
in.
haven't seen Lawrence Fishburne have so much fucking fun in a movie before John Wick Chapter 2, where his character was introduced. But you can, every time he smiles, you can see the scenery between his teeth. He is having so much fun.
Yeah, right.
Which I'm
like,
sure
so
is a
much
great
fun.
contrast for him, since the last time he worked with Keanu was for The Matrix, where he had to be like Morpheus, the
Right.
Zen master, the like logical, etc. And now he gets to just be a fucking ham.
Just gets to yell whenever he wants, and you're just like, all right, that sounds good. Yeah, yell for montages, and you're like, that's fair. Just yell over montages instead. I'm fine with that. But they basically wake John Wick up, and he immediately is like, okay, I gotta go like check in on how I get to the table, you know, like, and that kind of like activates. Well, we have the consequences of. First off, we have the consequences of the last movie where the hotel tried to help John Wick, and basically they blow up the New York hotel, the Continental. And then it's kind of like it's you can kind of see the table is not afraid to just wipe people off the map, you know, like just completely just be like, nope, we'll use all our power just to hide this. Just throw, like completely destroy a hotel that tries to hide John Wick.
Yeah, in the middle of New York.
And then we immediately go to that he's in, is it Saigon? Is it, no, it's Tokyo, right? Is it Tokyo or Osaka that the hotel is?
The Continental. I'll just say Japan. I'm pretty sure it was somewhere in Japan.
Okay, and they and it's basically like him checking in with his friend and basically being found at the hotel, and then it's this fantastic just fight through the hotel for the next half an hour, 45 minutes.
Of sides. like Sonata's character and his daughter, and whatever John's going through, and Donnie Yen's character just like fucking cleaning house, just trying to get to John.
And the introduction of Shamir Anderson's character, like he like kind of walks into the situation, you know, like he's sitting down, but it's kind of like you're kind of like, oh, the table is just taking out their own Continentals, you know, whenever they want here and taking it back, you know, like it's kind of very. It's very warlordy, but it's very, very like we're gonna take back our castle type of thing, you know, like, and it's so interesting to see them like raise the places, you know, just completely take them out. But I love every bit of this hotel sequence. It's incredible. Them running through the art gallery, it is just awesome. And everything with Donnie Yen is so fucking badass. You're just like, what is going on here? And the whole kitchen sequence where Donnie Yen is just like hearing them through the kitchen and taking them out. You're like, holy fucking shit! Like,
setting up the alarms in certain spots too, so it goes off when they cross it.
Right, instead of like C4 blowing up in their face or something, just telling him where he is.
It's also it's not only creative and helps it like spice up the fight and how different of a fighter he is compared to someone John or anyone else we see, but it also, for as ridiculous as this franchise is, also gives it that little bit of grounding. That like, no, he's not psychic.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's not he's hearing it. Like,
yeah.
I think that Donnie Yen brings a lot of realism and integrity to his fight styles too. I feel like they always do in all these John Wick movies. There's nothing so fucking out there, you know, that couldn't actually be accomplished. but like they, of course it's still over the top as much as it can be, and you're just
I feel like we stepped over that line when we got to 3.
Yeah, right. They're just like, and we'll just do it. We'll just do it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I think that this kind of sets up the kind of like international feel of this movie, like is that like we are starting in the desert. We're moving over to Japan. We're moving over to next Paris, which is kind of where we stay for the rest of forever, sort of. But it is a dope final location, it really is. It's I think they're able to use almost all of Paris in like a fun, interesting way, and I thought that was like really
including
great.
Like the Eiffel Tower being like sort of center of operations.
Yeah, right. You're just like, what?
I also loved the bit of like the radio talk show host like narrating as the night just continues to escalate and everyone keeps coming after John.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, so that's really, I think, where the movie. It's already just a fucking like ride. It's already you're buckled in. You're going through. But like when we go for the fucking loop-de-loop is when we start the whole Paris sequence and the DJ starts like making the like blatant announcements about where John Wick is in the city and just where he's gonna be taken out. In fucking credible. Like
even and this was before the whole Paris sequence.
Yes,
it might have been during it. You know what I'm going to talk about?
No, go ahead.
Where the fucking fight scene suddenly turns into a top-down shooter.
Right. Yes, but okay. So we are skipping. First off, we're like skipping Russia. Yeah, I'm realizing we're skipping Russia. He goes to kind of like get his cred back. John Wick is like, hey, I'm excommunicado. Let's make me not, so that way I can.
So he basically goes home.
Yeah, basically goes to Russia and is like trying to, get back in, and he has to do kind of what the Russian mob want them to do and take out this guy who took out her father. And
also great like character actor cameo. I love Natalia Tennant every time she shows up in something.
It's so good. And we have this absolutely incredible rave sequence. Like we already have so many good, like that's the real thing I'm seeing visually when you kind of rewatch the John Wick movies, is how neon soaked we go. Because John Wick 1, very dark. 2 starts to add a little bit of color, a little bit of something. 3 is where we're like, we're gonna soak it in pinks and blues, and then here we are straight up neon almost constantly. And I feel like that's what makes it almost more impressive, is that this is not CGI to be seen in the dark. This is fucking in your face, real people, action stunt doubles. Like these people are actually doing these movements, and you're just like, hell yeah, brother. That's fucking epic as shit. And I feel like the Russian rave sequence amplifies that, where it's just like, it's dark, it's light, it's dark, it's light, but you can see every second of it,
And also, I loved Scott Adkins' character in this.
The Russian mob boss,
like just fat, like car dealer, like just so fucking slimy, but also a decent fighter in his own respect. Like I just loved that shithead.
I did love that because I mean it tickled my like, it's like I was such a sucker growing up for Skyfall. I mean, not Skyfall, Casino Royale. I was a huge Casino Royale fan. I thought that and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, but also Rock and Roller. They were like my biggest influences, those 3 movies. And it's like, I all of a sudden you slip into John Wick, a weird poker scene. I'm like, you're playing to my fantasy, boys. You can't just do this. Like,
it's okay. It's okay to love Casino Royale. It's still the best Daniel Craig movie. You can fight me on that one.
Yo, Skyfall's fucking.
Skyfall's
Casino Royale's
fucking
beautiful.
Casino Royale's still better.
All right, fine. I'm fine with it. I actually am fine with it. If there's a movie,
it's literally the blueprint for a perfect reboot and origin story.
It's actually really true. And what's even more is that if there's a movie that you are watching of Daniel Craig's over and over again, it's not Skyfall. As much as like Skyfall is masterful, I feel like it's always Casino Royale.
And
you're putting that on
beyond, like,
whenever you want.
And even beyond that, I feel like a lot of Skyfall, like you and me, it's obviously like the technical side of it. Like, look at Roger
you're like,
Deakins just all over this.
You're like
movie.
Sam Mendes and Roger
But
Deakins,
I
you
think a
fucking
good
bitches.
But I think a good chunk of it for me is really just like, now we're gonna get into the traditional Bond things you all love because this is the anniversary movie.
Yeah, right.
So we're gonna do all the staples now. It's just like, well, we kind of established in Casino Royale that we were gonna have those, but also move beyond that, and then we just didn't.
Then we just went back to it.
Yeah.
But I think that we're getting so off topic, but not really, because it really is kind of a like Dr. No Casino Royale scene. All of a sudden, just like slapped into the middle of this movie, and I do love it because they're able to use it for tension. It's not just like dressing; it is literally like. They all want to kill each other, or John, really. Everyone wants to kill John, and John wants to kill the Russian guy. And that's kind of the dynamic going on. But like everyone at the table has their own agenda, and I kind of love that it's not just like we love poker scenes, let's put this together. It's like, hey, these are the stakes. Here's what's, going on here, like in this situation, done in a stylish way that like leads into an absolutely brutal fucking rave scene. First off, the axe through the head is something else. They do that in shot, and I know a couple other movies have done. I watched the Black Phone recently with Ethan Hawke. They also do an axe through the head scene, and all in camera. And both these movies do it so well, like where you're just like, okay, that's something you don't see every day. Usually if it's an axe going into the head, it's behind them, never right in front of their faces as they're standing. You're looking at their face, axe in, that is an impressive shot no matter how you slice it, guys. Think about it. Think about the complexity of what they would have to do to live split somebody's face open on camera and then move on. Like it's not a cut. It's like a split. Keep moving. You're just like, think about that. Just think about it. That's all I'm saying. Like the complexity of some of these action sequences, you can't appreciate unless you're actually thinking about how they accomplish these things. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's what makes the rave scene stand out. But also my favorite scene in the entire fucking movie, the Arc de Triomphe car fight. That shit is why this incredible. Mary came into the movie right as like the Paris stuff was like watching, and she was like, "Holy, because it's so it's so insane, it's so wild." And it really glues you. And then of course you have the stair sequence right afterward, and you're just like, Keanu, there's so many fucking stairs. You don't have to do it. Oh, he has to do it again. No, John.
God, that was borderline comical.
Yes, I was
and
laughing a little.
By the time he went down the entire stairs again, and plus I just wish he took a little more damage to it. It's like, can we stuff up his face a little bit, because he looks like he's taking a damn beating, and he has very little wear and tear. And I get it. You want to keep seeing Keanu's pretty face, but this seems almost
insane.
Comparable. This seems almost comparable to his fall at the end of the third film, where he was fucked up after that.
Yeah, right? Like he couldn't do anything. It's true. It's true. It's an amazing sequence, but it does kind of push the what the fuck is happening here sort of sequence. You're like, he just got the fuck back up from that, but okay. We're still on the Russian rave sequence. Amazing stuff though. In an incredible, it's just it's beautiful. It moves so well. But also, what's with those rave guests? Because I know it's a rave, it's loud, but nobody was
to anyone just killing indiscriminately.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be it's underground, so they expect this shit, and everyone keeps their mouth shut. But you're kind of
the New York thing, just New Yorkers don't react to anything. But it's always, and that's always the thing with extras and scenes like that I'm always watching for, because I'm like, okay, are these extras gonna react or not? Hell, even in Skyfall, it's a thing. We're like, oh, that train just got fucking torn in half, and Bond just jumped onto it like, hello, everyone, and all the extras were like, huh. As opposed to freaking out like they would be.
Right? Not screaming and running. Yeah, right? They're just like, maybe listen to the screams. In a world where there's so many mass shootings, that's where I was kind of like, this doesn't seem realistic, which is stupid to say in an action movie. But I'm like, in a world where there's so much mass shootings, I think people would hear one gunshot, one scream, run. You know, like no one's hanging about still dancing. You know, like
fair. That was in Russia, not the U.S.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, right. They're probably like, gunshot is just part of song. It's fine. Like, but I do love that sequence because it's got the big waterfalls going on the whole time. I think that's awesome. So that you got like the everything's wet kind of thing going on, which even more carries over to the complexity of the scene because it's like, it's just another thing you can't fake, you know, like you can't not be actually moving with the water there because you can't CGI water in like that, you know, like it would be too much money, you know, like to do that. It's like, so you actually have to do it, you know, like, and that's what I think that's why that scene is so impressive.
The same way, like, the second movie did like the exhibit with all the mirrors.
Exactly. Where it's a flex. It's a fucking flex. But I think another flex of that scene other than the axe is the stairway drop when the guy falls from the stairs and just crunches his freaking neck. That fucking I screamed. Like, I was like, oh, you know, like I was just like, Jesus, did not, you know, in a very violent movie, that was violent, you know, like you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. But like, also, how strong was that Russian guy? He was like Kingpin level. Like you could beat him up, like superhero Kingpin level. Because they just kept stabbing him and hitting him and punching him in the throat, and he didn't die, you know. And you're like, is he gonna fight Spider-Man after this? What the fuck is going on? Like, is Daredevil waiting for his round?
He even had like the sharp foiled edges on his cards, or like cut a dude's neck by throwing at him. It's like, what is he, fucking Ganda? What is this shit?
Yeah, there was some comic book love going on there. You know, like definitely. I really love those scenes. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And of course, they're just like pumping in some like rave music the whole time to get you amped. The whole fight scene is just like dun dun. Very much reminded me of like Blade, though. In a way, it reminded me of like the vampire fight scenes because no one was going anywhere, but everyone was dying. So you're just like, it feels like Blade, you know, like where they're all like, it kind of was like, are these all vampires? Is that what's going to happen next? John Wick's going to be John Wick versus the vampire horde? Because I'd watch that movie.
Talk about one of the best cold openings in an action movie. You're going to go to like the first Blade film.
Yes, right?
Just like, we're just going to a raid. Holy shit, vampires. Holy shit, blood rains. Holy shit, Blade shows up to kill everyone. You're just like, wow, this is a lot, and I'm here for it. Like, imagine just going in, like, not knowing that this is supposed to be an action film based on a comic. Or like, wow, this is a lot.
Wow. There's a lot of shit happening. There's vampires in this
late 90s. It's like, what?
What? Is that shit dark? Hell yeah. That's all the 90s needed. They were like, is that dark? I'll do the dark thing. Okay, so once they get out of Russia, they go to Paris. And that's where I think that we've already had a movie that's already amped it up to 10. And then that we do the joke. They took it up to 11, you know, like the classic dad joke. They pushed this bitch up to 11 once they got to Paris. They like take a very small break where Lawrence Fishburne gets to yell about something, and they spend some time in a subway. But it basically is just non-stop the whole time, and it is fucking incredible. I absolutely give the credit for that, because I was like, how do you close out this movie, which is already amped up so far? You know, like it's already blown my mind sideways. How do you go further for your last hour? You know, like what do you do? They fucking showed me. They fucking showed you. I mean, all the just running around Paris, fighting people through stalls, through anything. Like, you're just like, this is John Wick 3 Unleashed, you know, like where they were like, yeah, all of New York is trying to take him down. You're like, okay, even more of that, you know, like where it's just like people coming out of fucking nowhere trying to kill him.
Yeah. Whereas like 3, the end of 2 leading into 3 was just like all of New York is against you.
Yeah.
Now it's just like now all of like the country of Paris is actually
country of France, but Paris,
rather,
but the city of Paris. You're just like, oh shit. And it really is. It feels like everybody who sees them is just like, get that bitch, you know. It's kind of wild, but it leads through a bunch of set pieces that are absolutely incredible. First off, Deshaun brought up earlier the over-the-top shooting sequence. There's a part where John has to go into a house and fight his way through, and they basically, in one shot, after he goes through one room, they go top, they move over top, and then
Overhead.
in one shot, just move around, and it is a top-down video game, but a specific top-down video game. Have you ever played Hong Kong Massacre, Deshaun?
I've not.
That's what this scene is based on, Hong Kong Massacre. I did play the game afterward because it says on IMDb, there's an interview where he says it, where he's like, yeah, if you've ever played Hong Kong Massacre, you gotta play it. You got it. I was trying to emulate that for the scene.
Yeah.
First off, Hong Kong Massacre is a banger. If you liked Hotline Miami, if you like any of those like top down, you gotta do it exactly right to get through to the next sequence type of games. This is absolutely beautiful. In the same way that scene is really beautiful, where it's just like fire and gunshots and a little bit of slow-mo at times, and like just absolute carnage as you work your way through building. That's what that scene looks and feels like, and that's what that game looks and feels like. First off, yeah, I absolutely recommend the game. Second off, if you're a video game fan at all, you'll love this. Even if you didn't know that it was based on a specific game, you'll be like, a top-down shooter, you know? Like you'll be like, holy shit, you know? Like, or Party Hard. That's the other game I was thinking of. Party Hard. Yes, I was like Party. I was saying Hotline Miami, but like, but yeah. Both of those games kind of reminisce of this, but then Hong Kong Massacre is even more, which it's on Steam. It's cheap. I got it for real cheap. Totally worth it. I played like an hour or two of it, and I need to go further. But it is hard. it is one of those like room clearing games where you twitch wrong for a second and it's over. And it's over. And that's what that scene feels like, you know, like it's over. It feels like John Wick could mess up at any moment and die. I love the incendiary rounds. I think that's the extra flex on this scene. Not only is it doing top down, not only is it one shot, not only is he going from room to room, he's setting dudes on fire and they're running off and dying.
He's literally got it's like a power up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it seriously is. He got like a power up. He like picked up the incendiary rounds, and there was this moment where he like looks at him and then loads them in, and you're like, that's absolutely like the cut scene before the fight, you know, of a video game where you're like, oh, good, I have this now, you know, like, and I have the new unlockable. Let me try it on this next sequence, and that's kind of what happens here. I love this scene. I think it's. Even if you're not a big John Wick fan, if you're a big video game fan, I feel like you have to see this. You have to see that sequence. Even if you're just looking it up on YouTube, you have to see that fucking sequence. It's incredible. It's a feat. It's literally something I was watching it going, this is impossible. This seems like this is so well thought out, so well planned, so well done, looks incredible, flawless the whole time. You're just like, it's amazing. Same thing for the Arc de Triomphe car sequence. The amount of work they had to do to make that feel chaotic is incredible.
If you care about like the way action pieces are crafted, whether through choreography or cinematography or just stunts in general, just like everything
special effects.
It's one of those things where, like, even if you're not a fan of this particular type of movie, like, it's one of those things where, like, you might be being taught about this shit later on.
Yeah, right? They're going to be looking at some of this shit and being like, dude, like, look at this. Like, this is how we push forward, you know? And that's really it, is that I think that's why this movie impresses me so much, is I feel like it really is an action movie that takes a step forward and, like, pushes the boundaries of what action movies have done before and are able to deliver an amazing 2 hours, 49 minutes, you know, like, you're like, holy shit, how'd you fill this? You know, like, it's kind of one of those things that I'm like, how is this movie still going? But also, it's still amazing at the same time, you know, like, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I feel like it had, like, better moments of reprieve than 3 did. Because
yes.
3 tries to maintain its sugar high for a little too long, I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're like, pushing it a little much.
And it also gets a little excessive. Like, this one thing was cool. What if we did it 3 more times?
Yes.
Like, I talked about this when we talked about the first 3 movies. Like, okay, 1 horse kick to the head, really cool, will make you scream like, holy shit, that was brutal. Doing it 2 more times, it starts to, like, water down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I felt like every set piece in John Wick 3 had that. Just like, okay, we're going to throw you through this glass, like, bit piece with this armor. And then we're going to do it again. And then we're going to do it again. It's just like, okay, now it's gone from cool to just silly.
Yeah. And I think they're able to reclaim the cool here and hold it for such a long time. I kept bringing up the Arc de Triomphe car sequence is literally car ballet gunfighting. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what I saw on screen. It was literally like a dance sequence, but with fucking cars moving at what looked like real fucking speeds. You know, like they were really cooking. First off, another sequence where you're like, okay, guys, there's gunfights in the street. What are you trying to take this loop for? Like, stop trying. Like, the cars just kept coming, and I was like, one of you must have heard a gunshot and driven the other way instead of still going around in circles around the Arc de Triomphe. But it doesn't matter because it still makes it really badass. So you're just like, I don't care about realism. Who cares? Like, you're just like, it's still badass because, like, literally on screen, you'll see somebody get hit by a car, and then they keep like the camera keeps moving, and in the same shot, they're still doing like whole fight sequences and whole shootouts, and you're just, somebody literally on camera, full speed, gets hit by a car, you know, like,
yeah,
and no CGI, you can tell, you know,
that the one thing that was missing from Prager was guns.
I would play that sequel. There's another frog on the other side. And you're just hopping across trying to shoot each other.
I would love that. So
but I think that sequence, it's like, there's so many sequences in this movie where you are just like, that may be one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. And then they have another sequence, and you're
that's
like,
one of a few.
Yeah, you're like, exactly. You're just like
this one project in just one series, you know?
Exactly. There's so many moments in just these 4 movies that you're like, that was maybe the best action sequence I've ever seen. And then the next movie, you're like, how'd they get an even better action sequence? And then this 4th movie is just that, where they're the top down scene, the Arc de Triomphe, the stairs scene, which we haven't even, we talked about a little bit, but he basically gets to, it's the run up to, what building is it to run up to that they have the shootout of?
Yeah, I don't remember.
But it's like a certain church, and it's a very famous set of steps that is famously really fucking long. They even say it in the movie how many steps, I'm forgetting right now, but it's a very video gamey sequence, but it's kind of amazing. It's just like the Keanu Reeves fighting his way up the stairs twice, and even by the first time he gets to the top, you're just like, that was fucking nuts. And then they throw him down, and you're like, God damn it.
It's literally like you did the fucking Metroid thing where like you start the game off with your full power-ups and everything, and then they take it away from you. Just like back at the bottom where you belong. Now build yourself back up.
And you're like, no, wait, please. But we're at like the end of the movie, and it's like a timed thing. They're adding that drama of like he has to get to the top of the stairs by sunrise, and like there's that added drama of that. I thought that was brilliant. You know, like where I feel like it's so easy to add stakes to scenes, and a lot of action movies do not. And they're able to add real stakes to so many of these scenes, you know, while still being able to deliver over-the-top action that blows your fucking mind. You know, like, I feel like that's what's great, is we still have stakes in the fourth movie in, way far removed from the wife, way far removed from the dog. They're still able to add stakes, you know, like, and I love that. I think they do it. It's amazing. It's like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? It was funny because in the same day I watched Super Mario Brothers movie and I watched this, and it's like I felt like that who's the guy who the director who does Death Stranding, where
Hideo Kojima.
Yeah, where he's like I saw this movie today, and then he's like I saw the masterpiece that is, you know, like it's like, you know, where he's like I saw Super Smash Brothers today, and then you're like the masterpiece that is John Wick 4 will never be topped, you know, like I feel like his, you know, I feel like those two tweets where he's just like, you know, I saw a movie today, and then like ranting about the other one, and I feel that way about those two movies because yes, we did a whole that was the last episode, guys. Go listen. I had a lot to fucking say about Super Mario Brothers movie. It's one of those things that I watched John Wick 4 and I was just like, that was fucking incredible. Like that's the best way I would sum it up. Is I was like, I walked out being like, that was fucking incredible. I want to own this. I want to see it again. I want to see it in an even bigger theater. You know, it's like that. It's that type of movie where you're just like, okay, I will watch that again. Let's go. You know, like
your experience sounds similar to when I did like the double feature of Aquaman and Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
Watched Aquaman first and then Into the Spider-Verse. You're like, Aquaman was a lot of fun. Still really like the first Aquaman movie, but Into the Spider-Verse right after though.
You're like, it's hard to compare, man. It's hard to compare.
But hey, it's at least like, you know, you're just going up.
Right, exactly. But I think that, yeah, John Wick 4, it's one of those things that if you're an action fan, you gotta see this. You have to. There's sequences in this that are just the better than anything else happening in any other action movie. You have to watch this. You know, like it is. I feel like this is required viewing for action fans. I feel like now, like, sorry if you're wondering what the greatest action movies of this year are, it's John Wick 4. It already won best action movie. I'm sorry. There's no. I don't even care what else comes out. I don't even give a fuck.
Yeah,
this movie did it.
And the first two movies had already had the distinction of like being some of the best of their decade.
Right?
It's like John Wick 1 and 2. It's like Mad Max Fury Road, like those. But this one has the distinction of like, oh, we're in a new decade now, so what else has everyone else got? Although George Miller is filming Furiosa right now, so who knows?
So who knows? Who knows? It might happen. But I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's a great cast, amazing scenes that literally blow your mind and make you think, how the fuck did they do that? Which, as film guys, is the biggest treat in the world. You know, like to be like, what? How?
Yeah.
You know, like
if we don't know, then you've done a good job.
If
just don't immediately pick it out.
Right, if I'm not immediately like CGI, yeah, okay. You know, like if I'm sitting there being like, holy shit, they're able to it's like you're sitting there analyzing it as it's happening, and you know that's always happening, but like even more so than normal because you're just like, how the fuck are they accomplishing this shit?
So it seems like this one was your favorite of the four.
I want to say it is. I'm gonna go back and rewatch them all. But at the moment of like my feelings about them, this one consistently blew me out of the water. Yes, it's not as emotional as John Wick 1. It's not as as maybe as fun as 2 and 3, but or as world building. But I feel like this one has all the right spices, all the right mixes. This is this is my John Wick favorite. You know, like I think this is great.
The reason why I like 2 the most is, 1, it was like just before we started to get into like more ridiculous territory with 3, where it's like still fairly grounded. And 2, it's the Empire story, and I love a good dark middle chapter where we just leave. Like the way it ends on such a haunting note that like you're excommunicado and literally there's a contract for you and all of New York will be against you. Like I love that shit. I always love that dark, like you will not make it out of this ending.
I do love that, and I do love in this movie that they keep ramping up the ransom. It's like watching John Wick 1, they're like, get John Wick for $2 million, and then this they're like 20 million, 40 million, 60 million.
I also love that
the trackers like, ramp.
Oh, I'm just waiting. Like you're not at high enough price yet, so I'm just gonna let you do your thing until the price is just right for me.
Which, like, there's been 3 movies of guys being like, right price, you know, like, and Tracker's sitting there being like, 20 million? Not enough. Like, I need more. And everyone else was like, I will die for 3 million. You know, like, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like, you know, like, I think a lot of other people were cheaper than the Tracker here. Like, but yeah, I think that this is a great cast, great set pieces, a great soundtrack, an amazing feats of directing going on here. And really shows that what's the director's name?
Chad Stahelski.
That he's fucking got it in spades, man. Whatever it is, he's fucking got it. You know, like you're just like, this man needs to direct more movies. Is basically what I got from this. It's like I'm just like,
yeah, and
like,
the idea that like at the very least, if they decide to stick with their guns with the ending. Yeah, and if they don't, it still works as like a break,
right? And mostly why I'm saying he needs more is his only 4 directed movies are the John Wick movies, and it's like if you just leave it as that, I still will praise him, you know, because that's still such an absolute directing flex.
It was,
you know,
it was 2 directors for the first one because it was him and David Leitch. David Leitch went on to do stuff like I think he did Atomic Blonde and he did Deadpool 2.
Yep. But Chad stayed here being an absolute Chad, just doing John Wick. But I really think that it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, give him whatever he wants. Like, whatever property he wants to do, let him do it, you know?
Yeah. And plus, it's an interesting story, like, starting off as a stuntman for, like, understanding that world as far as, like, the way action films are crafted.
Mm-hmm.
It's something to watch, you know?
In a world where Marvel movies are trying to be like the biggest action set pieces, and then you have John Wick just doing it, you know, like without the giant cast, without the giant CG budget, without the power of the mouse.
Underpaid VFX artists.
Right? Without all that money. Like it's like, you know, like he doesn't John Wick is, I know it's probably still put out by a mouse company though, I'm sure, right? Like I'm saying that, but John Wick is probably put out by, no, it's WB, right? Is it WB?
I think it's WB. I think it's Lionsgate.
Oh, Lionsgate. Okay. All right. So wait, is Lionsgate owned by the mouse?
Lionsgate is Lionsgate is
no, they're separate. Is MGM, right?
MGM, see?
Oh my God, yeah, it's gotten kind of crazy. But really, I can't recommend this movie enough. Even if you're like, hey, I liked the ending of John Wick 3, we can leave it at that. You're like, I'm telling you, don't leave it at that.
Yeah,
pick up this movie.
That was also another point against John Wick 3's like favor, is that you can't do it's passe to do that like cliffhanger ending twice in a row.
Yeah,
you get,
it
like,
is
one shot at that. You can't give me the same exact ending twice. And plus, when you look at the bones of Chapter 3, what actually happened?
Yeah, exactly. It's not,
as far as like moving forward, not much when you actually think about it.
Exactly. So
just end the same exact way we started.
For me, it goes 4, 2, 1, 3. I think that and 3, and none of these are bad. I'm just ranking them. They're all good movies.
Yeah, it would probably be like 2, 4, 1, 3 for me.
Yeah. I of course I think 1's a classic, but it's like, it is, I think somehow 2 and 4 are able to be, are able to be great sequels. And I think that, you know, in a world where we're like, what's the best trilogy? you now have to be like, well, best saga might be John Wick, like, because they're still strong at 4, like, we're still sitting strong, like.
And that's another thing. Don't push your luck.
Yeah, right. Don't do it. Well, they've already tried to do a spin-off. There was already a a Continental movie that had nothing to do with anything else, but like sort of was in the John Wick universe.
I think that was like supposed to be more firmly connected before they like doubled back on that. Like, never mind.
They were like, never mind. But it definitely, you could have, it absolutely was, like, and then we have Ballerina.
Those get to kind of be in their own bubble.
Yeah. And now we have Ballerina.
If you don't want to watch those, you don't have to.
Exactly. Okay, so now, guys, we're going to talk about the spoilers of the ending. Of course, you could be like, John Wick's dead, moving on. That's probably not what happened there. Like, I know they heavily allude that he's dead. I don't know about it.
My problem is, again, then this goes back to like the stairs thing of like not showing him like scuffed up and anymore. And we've made him so fucking invulnerable that even when you try to kill him, I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. You've made him too fucking overpowered for me to buy it unless you really show him like kill himself to get to the end of the fight.
Which, to be fair, I would be okay if this was it. Like, if you told me Keanu doesn't want to do any more John Wicks, I would be fine. I would say leave it, and please never reboot this series. Like, do not give me John Wick in 20 years. Like,
I also think John Wick dying at the end is the way to go. Eventually.
Yes. They, I guess they shot 2 endings. They shot one where he obviously lives, and then they shot one where he dies. And the test audiences were like, kill him. Like, and I'm kind of like, yeah, like, I get
good
that.
On test audiences for that, because test audiences are fucking babies.
Yes, right.
Like, literally anything that's a little too challenging for them, they tend to like scare the studios into changing. So kudos to the test audiences for being like, no, it's better this way.
It's better this way, and it is. It's like, I kind of like that they're like, no, we can end it here, if we want to. Like, if we want to, we can end it here. But obviously, they could start John Wick 5 with his fucking hand coming out of the grave, or just being on a beach somewhere, or, like, you literally could just do one thing.
Coma.
Yes,
like,
right.
Winston has been hiding him all this time.
Exactly. There's, like, a ton of ways you could do the next one. Do you have to? No. Would I be amiss to it after this one? No, I would actually be fine with a John Wick 5. I really would. Because I would watch until he takes out the table. Like, if you have to do 5 and 6 to take out the whole table, that's fine by me.
I say if you're going to keep fucking ramping it up and ramping it up and ramping it up, like end it with like the table is gone and now civilization has to rebuild. Like, we're in the fucking Wild West now that the table is gone. Like, literally, like the Escape from LA / like Metal Gear Solid 4 ending of just like, I just fucking took down the pillars. Right. For better or worse, you guys are left with a mess.
And then it just cuts to like Precinct 13, like just cuts to like John Carpenter movies, and you're like, yes, very good. This is exactly what I was going for. Like, but
the actual final John Wick movie needs to end as the start of Escape from New York.
Yes. Actually, that's actually a great way. They're like, he's like, actually, my name now is Snake Plissken, and then it ends, and you're like, yes. They connected it. Like, and you're just like, beautiful. Which, by the way, yeah, Escape from New York. I own that also. It's a beautiful movie. That is pure high fantasy sci-fi. I love it. John Carpenter could do no wrong. But John Wick 4, fantastic. Give me more, maybe if you want.
I don't need it.
I don't need it.
Say no.
Right?
It's like more. It's like, more dessert.
Yeah, right. You're like, I guess so. But guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. I hope you check out John Wick 4 when it drops digitally, and I say buy it. I think that's my rating, is buy it as soon as you can. Blu-ray, digital, get your mitts on it.
I'm gonna grab the 4th one.
Yep. I'm set. Yeah, right. I already have. It's funny. I have like 1 and 3 on Google and 2 on Prime, and I'm like, I should just buy it on Google. I should buy 2 on Google, so I have all 3 on Google.
Yeah,
I'm just like.
It'll also, I'm sure, especially since this will be the break at the very least, if not the final movie, I'm sure they'll have like a nice like box set of all 4 movies.
Oh yeah, that'll be nice. I would absolutely recommend that. I would say that like maybe wait until that. That would be really cool. But guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Grab the movie, and guys, thank you for supporting the show. Last episode got a lot of great feedback and love, and I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate all the support you guys give us. And all you have to do is hit some doodly dads down below. I'm not gonna force you to. Just make it happen. Just,
yeah, you know the score by now. If you listen to other podcasts, you know how it is. You
know how it is. But we are anywhere you do listen to podcasts. We are on every podcast thing possible, pretty much. If we're not, please let us know and we'll get it on there. But we're pretty much on anywhere you listen to podcasts. But if you want to see our beautiful faces, you got to come to YouTube. You got to come to the Galaxy Geek YouTube and see our beautiful faces. Or just go to galaxygeek.com, where every episode lives. All our articles, anything geek-wise that we do is on that page. galaxygeek.com. And guys, I just want to again thank you for the support, and also make sure that you support us on our personal social medias. I'm Yup Frank on Instagram and Twitter.
I'm Mod Karika on Instagram and Twitter. Been going to a lot of events lately, so I've been posting more often. Like, see this shirt for the video watches here. Just went to go see Beetlejuice yesterday.
How was it?
That was super fun. Oh, it was a blast. I had a
awesome.
great time.
It sounded so great. I mean, I've only heard good things about the play, so I mean the musical. So I really was.
Well,
excited.
You have like a week.
A week to get there, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Broadway in Boston. Only there for a fucking week. You're just like, wait, no, please come back. But that's just Boston being a little city. Sometimes you're like, wait, why can't you stay here for a normal run? And they're like, you're very small, and you're like, please. But yeah, check out all those pictures of the events he's going to. I know he's going to Fan Expo coming up, so that will be out on the Instagram there. And also, if you like Gundam, like me, you can check out my Gundam Instagram, Yup Gundam, where I post all my Gunpla builds and photos. And then, guys, thank you so much again for all the support you give, and I will see you all next week.
See you next
or
time.
in the future. Adios.
When